Hey, running once. This is Sauce123. Today I'm back and we're going to be making a 1020, hopefully antes video. I'm cycling through these tables because I don't know. I'm trying to get, 4 tables up and, we'll see how well that works. I position myself on all of the, I hit 2 pair. That's a good hand. Position myself on all of the empty tables at 1020. There's like 9 tables in the lobby. And I'm on the empty one, so eventually I think someone will have to play with me, and then we'll get 4 tables. So that's my plan. You have to bear with me. Other than that, some of these guys are playing. So we got 2 tables. We got this table. This might not break. So let's talk about this hand. So we got, the ace down. We can min raise on the button. You got ace 5, 3, 7. It's a pretty good turn. The thing is, if I check, obviously I'm probably best now, but if I check raise, like over half the deck is going to be a little bit ugly for me. Only a 7 and a 3 is going to be super value bettable. So the idea here is we just call and we call down on pretty much any river card that doesn't make our hand worse. This 9 of spades is one that we're going to call down unless he makes a massive overbet. I think this is a deep table, so no, it's breaking. They're always breaking. The lobbies are a freaking jungle. Like the waiting lists are like 25 deep. I think everyone has a script. You guys probably know more about this than me, but I don't even know how to play poker anymore. I just, I play when people let me play, and I don't know this whole script game. And people want the fastest script. They want the bet. Let's call 5-3 here. 5-3. I mean, I got really good pot. So 307. You got to wonder, is he value betting ace king and ace queen here? I don't know. But he can definitely be bluffing with like jack 10 of diamonds. My hand's pretty strong. He might value bet worse. He's definitely value betting 5-3 probably. I'm just going to call and hope. Nope. No dice. This might break, it looks like. In an ante-game, I think it's okay to mix in a few limps on the button. Sometimes. Just going to 3-bet here with the 8-4 suited. I have position, and I like to apply some pressure in this situation sometimes against a wide opening range. I really like it when they flat call, because then I can sort of use my strong range to my advantage. Obviously, we can't limp call 10 deuce off. It's not going to work. And, I'm going to bet. I'm going to make I actually like to bet small on this flop, because I usually like to widen my range to include ace-king, and ace-king can actually value bet for a sizing like this. Not value bet per se, but protection bet, sort of range bet, I don't know, merge, whatever you want to call it. But it's a good tactical play, I think, to bet ace-king here sometimes at least. Obviously, this is an excellent barrel spot for me. I'm going to barrel, and I'm going to shove the river fairly often. I don't think he has king-queen too much, which is kind of the trouble hand. So I'm going to increase the bet size a little bit here. And win the pot a lot. So this ace-jack suited, sort of a funny card. I think betting and checking are both okay. I'm just going to bet this time. Not going to get too far into it. 5 deuce off, we're going to fold. I'm going to stop talking about folding. The pre-flop stuff I'm not going to talk about unless it's like really non-standard or I think it's close. So if I don't say anything, you guys can just assume that it's standard for me. And if you think that that's bad or you want to talk about something I think is standard, then we can talk about it. But otherwise, probably not. I'm just going to go ahead and just make a little raise here again. Call with the queen jack. And this ace jack here is an okay barrel, I think, but read this, I'm just going to check fold because he might show down jack 10 and not bluff with it. And if he does that, checking is pretty good. My ace jack here. I'm going to flat on the bottom. Raise getting it in is, I think, a little bit thin. He's just going to have a lot of hands like pocket kings, so I don't really want to do that. So I'm going to call it, and hopefully my connection will cooperate. And again, we're going to try to show down here. I'm going to lose to queen 10 type stuff a lot, but occasionally I think I'll win. And ideally, he'll show down something like 8 of diamonds, 8x, and I'll just win. That may or may not happen. Also 6x. So let's see if this is a good table. Yeah, they're not actually playing. Queen 9 suited makes a lot of sense. Okay, so down here we've got 3 queens and a jack. Obviously, that's very good. Blocking the jack. This is actually one of these hands that I prefer to check back sometimes against some players. I don't really know a lot about human, so it's close. But you know, I think both plays are fine here. I'm actually going to bet small. The idea is that I can be betting a lot of different hands for value protection here, and he can never fold an overpair, and he can't fold the jack against this bet size, and sort of protection value, sort of I'm going to say tactical bet or something. Oh my god, I'm being removed by the servers. Okay, so I'm just sort of scanning. So I'm on all these waiting lists in 1020. So the idea, we're going to try to get 4 tables up eventually and play a real poker session. I might even play 25-50 because I don't play with these guys too. And they're not going to play with me though, so it's kind of a waste of our time. So we'll see eventually, hopefully we'll get up enough tables. But for now, we're going to have to settle ourselves with 2 tables. I'm going to stick to the 1020 and 1020 games for the most part because I think there's enough tables running that we can make it happen. So the idea of this video is that I've been doing a lot of theory videos recently, and I'm going to sort of make a looser video where I'm just playing poker and sort of talking about what I'm thinking. And I'm going to try to get on, 4 tables of 1020 so that I can accumulate some reads against these guys. And hopefully this will end up being, a 4-part video series, something like that. Maybe we'll end up playing 500 hands, 600 hands, and we'll be able to sort of, build a profile on these guys and sort of talk about some adjustments. So that's something that I don't talk about much in my videos, and I know it's something that Phil talks about a lot. This is a little bet. See this bet? It's $37 into $189. The idea of this bet is that the 5 is a pretty good card for my range. It's not a good card for semi-bluffing range. And I just want to charge him a little bit if he has a hand like, say, 8-7 or something. I don't want to give him the complete free card, so I think that's a fine play. Then on this river here, we have to value bet. Obviously, we're going to have a lot of ace-x hands that don't really want to value bet in the queen, but I think we can go ahead and make a bet here and get value from basically ace-x. Let's see we're going to see what he has. He had ace-jack, so I mean, obviously, I'm actually surprised he didn't raise the turn. But that's pretty soon. King 10 suited is a very easy call against the 3-bet, even out of position. And we're going to check call the flop. Ace 4-4 is a board where I just won't have a 4 barely ever. And I'll be 4-betting my strong aces most of the time. So my range is pretty, unless I have pocket 4s or something, or ace 4 suited maybe once in a blue moon. But the huge majority of my range is either a bluff catcher, a flush draw, or air. And so check raising doesn't do anything. It just protects my hand, but I don't need to protect my hand because it's an ace-high board. So check raising is just a bad play. So I call. With the king-high flush draw, I block ace-king, and I dominate other flush draws. So I'm actually going to check call the turn too, pretty much no matter what he bets, and work from there. And then on this run out here, I'm just going to check it down and lose a lot. Over here on the ace-5 deuce against the check, this is a spot that is fairly read dependent for me. I don't really want to fold my hand ever because my hand's pretty good. At the same time, and it's also sort of a little bit tempting to 3-barrel because I block ace-king and ace-queen, and I block king x of hearts. But I'm going to go ahead and show my hand down as a default play. Although I think I just lose to pocket 8s here a lot against average opponents and chop with king-queen and maybe beat king-jack. I feel like I'm going to get bluffed by anything weaker than jack 10 at some point in the hand. So I don't feel good about this spot. Let's find out. So he has 2 jacks. And the thing is like, if I start barreling off, I always win against that hand, and I'm going to just turn enough equity that I can push him off, 2 black jacks or 2 non-heart jacks pretty much every time. So, I think being aggressive in that spot is okay. But considering, I'm sauce and I bluff a lot and I'm tough to play against, it's one of these things where, like, I think I should play it a little standard, a little tight first. I want to see what he shows down. I want to see how he's playing his range. I want to look at his timing, and then maybe I'll start to play back a little more later. That's kind of my game plan. I don't really know any of these regulars, by the way. I know Human, but I played with Human, 2+ years ago when he was playing a lot higher. He's a pretty big nit, not going to lie. So we can expect nittiness from him. I'm going to sit this table. You guys can't see this, but I'm trying to get action. I'm trying so hard to get action. So this king jack off for me is usually a call. Usually it's a call. I could 3-bet too, but I think it's just a little too loose. Ace-6 suit is a very easy raise against the limp. If you don't raise this, you're making a mistake. Note to self. I'll be 3xing right here because that's what my table ninja is set on right now. And I know how to play the different styles. And I know how to play 3x. I know how to play 2.5. I know how to play 2x. And I don't think it matters that much. So I hit this ace down here on row trout 3. And I'm sitting here and it's like, what am I really bluffing with in this river? I hit everything. So maybe I'm bluffing with 3x, but I don't think I need to value bet king jack in order to balance my 3x bluffs. That seems like too loose of a play. Maybe I have queen jack of spades that I'm bluffing with, but I'm just going to have so many value bets to balance here that I don't think I need to go down as far as king jack off to value bet. That being said, maybe I should bet like a 3rd pot, 5th pot. That might be okay. But I think check call is just the standard. That's the standard here. Jack 9, no good. So the lesson is that, the takeaway, the point is that when almost all of your flop calling range is beating a lot of his range, there's no reason to value bet super thin. It's actually better to protect your checking range. Pocket queens. That's a hand we're going to go all in with. Maybe we'll get 4-bet. If we get cold 4-bet, it's actually a little bit close. We get flatted. Oh, this will be fun. And looks like we may get a chance to play poker. King 10 offsuit, I like to start out by calling. I'll sometimes 3-bet depending on my reads. Oh, the Skype chat. They had a Skype chat and they decided, we're going to play with Sauce today. It's time. We know he's making a video. We want that airtime. This is a televised table right here. All right, so king 9-5, deuce 4. So here's the thing. I've got some bluffs here. He doesn't really improve very much on this 4, so I think this is just a spot where I want to get quite a bit of value. Even overbetting is almost sort of tempting. So this 2 queens hand is kind of funny too. Ace-5-4, I'm just going to check. The reason is, the lose Roja doesn't have anything here unless he misclicked pre, which he might have. If he's betting, I don't know why he's betting. This guy called me with ace-deuce, so that's, not a good play. Unless he thinks that I'm over-bluffing that card, and why should he think that? He should. 10s, I think, is strong enough to raise against, the 20-some-odd% that he's opening in the hijack in all likelihood. It's close. It's one of the weaker hands that I'd raise. Actually, I wouldn't raise 9s. So it's the weakest pair. So when it goes, bet call here, my queens are not going to be good often enough to continue. I'm quite surprised that Luz Roja bet this flop, like I was saying before, because I don't think he has much, because most of his range, maybe he just has a hand like ace-queen suited. That's sort of a hand that makes sense. That's not I usually play 4-bet or fold in this spot, because our pre-flop investment was only 1 big blind. And I think splitting our range when we only have 1 big blind invested by calling another 13, 14 bigs is just not going to be worth it. This is very standard check here on Jack 4. Well, very standard. It's a spot that I usually check. And the reason is because if I narrow his range down to flush draws and mostly pairs that have outs against me and some floats, I'm going to end up check folding the turn in a big pot. Very often. So what I really am trying to do with this play is show down against his checking back range. When he bets against me on the flop, I'm just doing terrible. That's just something I'll have to accept and deal with. That being said, if he's protection betting, so the other interesting thing about this board is that when you have the 4 spades and the 3 of spades, he doesn't hit that many hands that can protection bet that are unpaired. So like he's not going to have ace-4 suited that often, or 5-4 suited. He's going to be folding that pre-flop. So when it goes check-check, my hand is pretty good, but I actually think that this is a hand that has so many bad rivers on the 10 that it's something that I want to go ahead and check call with. So he snap check back the turn, and we hit the 10 of diamonds. I don't think that this is a good spot to go for a check raise because we block all the 10s and he didn't bet the turn. So I don't think he's thin value betting the river very much. So I think it's a spot that we just go for a fairly standard bet and call a raise and hope that he occasionally bluff raises. I don't really think he's doing that. Maybe pot is better. I just don't think this guy has much. I think he has a hand like pocket 7s or ace queen almost every time. Against that, how much should I bet? Tough question. After timing down this long, I'm just going to go ahead and pot it and go for a little extra value because I think that he thinks that polarizes my range. So I'm probably making a video and I'm probably talking a lot, so whatever. I think he's going to hero me a little more versus size to get into the psychology of the situation a little bit. But he just folds. I think people are tight in this spot still. I know you. Okay, so good flop. Okay, so first of all, c-betting on this flop. The 5 is a reasonable card for his range. I have fewer 5s than he does. That being said, I have a lot of strong aces, and my range can generally play pretty well in turn river. So this is why I just like to go for a little third pot poke. The idea is that if I have a hand like ace jack, I actually still want some protection if he even has a hand like jack 6 offsuit. I don't really want to give him free cards there. So I like to just go for a little flop poke with most of my range, and then sort of split on the turn, do more range splitting on the turn. After hitting the 3 of diamonds, that gives him a lot of turn draws and things. I think check raising is an option, but I think that, especially given I have the king of diamonds, it's not the best option. So I'm just going to go ahead and bet with what would be a pretty wide range here. I don't need to pick a huge size because I don't want to overly polarize my range in this situation because he has more 5s than me in his range. So I don't need to make the pot huge. He should do that for me with his bluff raises. That was a little long-winded. So he's thinking, he's going into the tank. He has the 7-6 of diamonds. He's thinking, he's like, am I really going to put in my 1950 right now on a bluff? He couldn't pull the trigger. All right, so now we've got the jack of spades. I would say this is a pretty easy bet call. I don't expect a ton of 9s to bet for me. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a I'm just going to bet this much, fairly large bet, and call a shove. I just am going to fold this 10-3. You see these high stakes hand histories and you think everyone's opening every button, and some guys do, but when there's no antes in the game and the blinds are both regulars, I don't like to open just like any 2 suited cards usually. And I'll make some adjustments in that situation. With this 6-8, I'm going to go ahead and check call. This is I would say, average flop for me. It's not great. It's not terrible. And I'll call once, and I will fold non-spade, non-7, non-8, non-6 turns. Even a jack I might get fancy on. I might fold this turn too. This club is just not my favorite 6. This is a spot on 8-7-4 that I'm a little bit torn about in general. I think check raise is the best play, but I think it's closer than some might have you believe. And I'm going to fold. This is a fairly large bet, and you can see that his stack is quite small. So I think it's time to lay it down. And, I don't really love to get my hand in here on the flop. It's not an amazing situation. I still expect my range to be polarized enough to bet this turn, I think. This hand actually fits okay as a check call blank rivers to pick off bluffs. But I'm not really check raising a bluff catcher heavy range in the flop. So if I check call the turn, my range sort of becomes a little bit more face up. It looks like I have something like ace-6 of hearts maybe, or something kind of like that. So I'm going to bet the turn and check call some rivers. Now, he snapped the turn, so I'm not quite sure exactly what he has. Obviously, shove is okay. Part of the analysis of this hand depends on how often I think 8x is in his range and how often he thinks 8x is in his range. But, interesting situation. I believe that I should just shove here. I'm not in love with this play, though. You know, this is not something that I'm particularly excited about, because he's going to have a draw a lot, given my dead cards, given my 8 and 4 blockers. And he might even fold an overpair. So I don't know. It's not amazing. Check calling's okay, but the problem too is that, you know, he's just going to have... I like this board. This is a nice board for me. It's a board that I think I can really, you know, bet on. 6 deuce here is a hand. I think I have enough backdoor everything that I can see bet. This queen 7, I will check and fold the turn. I'll develop a small check call and check raising range in the turn in order to protect hands like this that have quite a bit of equity but have to check fold. Check raising the turn is actually fine here, but I prefer to be slightly less fancy when I'm playing with a new player pool until I have an idea of their tendencies, especially because they're going to expect fanciness from me. Of course, now that I say that in the video, everyone's going to play like a nit against me and I have to bluff again, so maybe I change my mind. Oh, so we have a table with real players on it. So I'm going to mix that in to the game. I'm really... Okay, so I mean, here I'm obviously barreling, and the river is going to be all in pretty much like 110% of the time. Okay, so, you know, this is a really nice... I really like this queen of spades. It's a really nice card to bet with. So, you know, let's just find out. I said I wouldn't bluff, but I'm going to bluff because I decided to. So we're just going to do this. And when he calls, we're probably going to go all in sometimes. That's just how it's going to work. I 3-bet this. And on this flop, a little bit interesting spot. I think betting's okay as is checking. I think I prefer on 9-6-4 specifically to bet, because this doesn't connect quite as well as like a 9-8, like a 9-8-4. You know, a 9-8-4 I think I would check. It's sort of a cuspy board for me. So this is the card we've been dreaming of, the 10 of spades. This is like the bluff card of our dreams. So we're going to go all in. And we're going to get him to fold the king. And, you know, he's going to fold 5-7 if he somehow has it. And, you know, we're just going to win a lot. It's a beautiful thing. And up here, I'm going to check call. I'm going to check call down here. He's just really confused right now. He thinks he's like, does he have ace jack? Does he have jack 9? But he doesn't have. What does he have? I have no idea. He's out to sea right now. We've put him in a tough spot. But we like this queen of spades in this position. All right, so he just went with it. So good hand him. So, you know, he realized his range was capped. And he was like, I'm just not going to ever fold. And of course, you can see that that sort of is the reason why initially I said, you know, maybe I shouldn't do this. But, you know, it's only $2,000. All right. So, time to get serious. Checking the turn. Now, it's true that protection is kind of nice in this turn, but my range is not 7 and deuce heavy. So I think it's a spot, and certainly my hand is not strong enough to value bet in 2 streets. So I think check calling is the play. With this king 5 suited, I think we just want to check call the flop. We may end up check raising later on. In fact, I will check raise this turn with my 2-pair because I think it's really implausible that I would. So on this king river, I think we're gonna. This is actually close. I think we're gonna go ahead and value bet here. I don't think he'll have a lot of kings that he plays this way. Here, I believe check raise is the play. Oh, he did have a king, but he played that way. Let's see. What am I thinking? And then I lost this one too. I mean, not lost, but see if he had a spade. He had jack 10. All right, so I don't think I was gonna get much done there. So this 4 is kind of interesting. It's generally when bottom pairs, it's a spot where we should be a little bit careful. But in this case, I don't think we need to be as careful. And the reason is because most 4x, the offsuit combos at least, won't be in his button opening range. So it's not actually a great spot for him. He's going to have a lot of hands like 5x here and pocket 6s and even a weak 10x. On a river like this, I think it's a very obvious situation to bet fairly large. So we're going to do this, and we're going to see what he does. He might hero us, he might not. It's just a spot where bluffing is going to be good with our range, and he's not going to have too much. So it's just a strong play. Human check raises us a 9-8-5, and as I said, Human is renowned for his tight and solid play. Some would even say nitty. So I'm just going to flat call. Let's see what happens. This 7 is probably not a big part of his range, to be honest. I would expect him to check a lot with his whatever hand he has. I'm guessing he has a lot of, I actually don't feel good about this hand at all, just based on how I think he plays. So I'm probably going to make a laydown if he bets the turn, even though, yeah, jack 10 and queen 10 are possibilities, but I don't think that he's going to have a wide bluffing region. I think that he's more likely to have a hand like pocket 8s or pocket 9s that he's just going for value protection, sort of keeping his range in the lead for, than he has some air ball. Not to mention the fact that when I bet call the flop off, this is close. 385 is not very much, and it looks like I got 4 outs. I can't fold here. Who am I kidding? I call. That was the smack, the call button. Call. Deuce diamonds is not the best card. His backdoor flush draws came in. We'll be folding the river to a shove. That's the plan. All right. Jack 10. Okay, we won. Thank God. He actually bluffed. So maybe, you know what? Maybe I didn't give Human enough credit. I probably didn't. Human, if you're watching, I'm sorry. Please renew your membership to runotonce.com. Realize that Run It Once Pro Benjamin Sulsky does not have a good read on you, and he played that hand well. And I would have folded an overpair on the turn, and you outplayed me, Human. I think so. Who knows? 6s, I think I will flat. I think I'll flat 6s. I don't really see any reason to raise here. It's not like I have a big jack advantage, maybe a small jack advantage. And I have a lot of just really weak hands. I don't see the point. I don't see the need to go playing my range crazy yet. And on the 3, I believe it's a spot for a modest bet that's designed to get value and protection. And I will check back most rivers. In fact, I'll check back rivers that aren't a 6. But the thing is, every hand in his range has 6 outs, and it doesn't just have 6 outs, it has bluff outs. If a big card comes and he bets big, I'm going to have trouble continuing. So I think it's a spot where betting is just going to be good with my range, and once he check raises me, my range will be narrowed to a lot of jacks. So he can't just go ahead and check raise me with pocket queens for value. So I think by setting the bet size there, I put him in a tough position, tactically speaking. So that's the plan. I'm actually going to take a very short break. I'll be right back. After this hand. Obviously, we're calling the flop here and then deciding. You check calling turn. I actually think this is a spot where his range will be pretty strong when he bets. I don't think he's bluffing here that often the way a lot of people play the sport, but that can't be helped. And on this river, I think we're doing quite well. I actually think I'm going to go for a check raise here. I don't think that he has very much, given that I block a jack. And I don't think he's a lot of 10x, so I think he's actually turning like 8s into a bluff here quite often. And I'm going to go ahead and make it 160. And I was basically checking that river just to induce the bluff, not really for value. I expect to lose here to not lose, to chop with king queen. It's pretty much the hand, or queen jack or queen 10. But I think he was just bluffing. Okay, I'm back. And we'll jump right back to the action. I wanted to review that hand against human really quickly. So as you guys may recall, it was 9-8-5 rainbow, and I got check raised, and the turn was a 6, bringing backdoor flush draw, and I got bet into for about 2/3 pot, and I called. River was the deuce of diamonds, and went check, check. Even though I think that he's fairly tight in that spot, I think, yeah, I mean, maybe he's not as tight as I think. I already talked about that. But when I flat the turn, after bet calling the flop, my range is going to contain quite a few 7s in it and quite a few flush draw hands. So I think, and certainly quite a few 2 pairs. So, I mean, one of the benefits to calling that turn, given the pot odds that I was getting, even given that I think that he's not bluffing that much, is that the river is a scary bluff situation for him. So he can't just bluff like crazy. So I should realize a lot of equity, even if I think that his range is quite narrow. So that's kind of why I decided to call in the end, even though I wasn't happy about it. So we have what we suspect is a weak player from Russia. So I'm going to make a small bet here just because of the stack size. It's the tell. Not that it's, it says that much, but he's one tabling and he's got, not a full stack. So I just bet the flop for, value more or less. And I'm going to check the turn and probably call the river. And, I'm going to value bet the river now. Don't need to be too big. I'm just going to bet 130 and hope to get hero called by what I think is probably going to be ace x or queen x. He also might have a hand like pocket 7s or something. I think that's a pretty standard line. So we had ace 4. So, I ended up being 48% in the flop versus that hand, but I think that I'm going to be a favorite against his check calling range. And obviously, given the way the hand played out, though I was an equity dog, I was the playability favorite for sure. So I ended up sort of controlling the hand and putting in a bet not bad on the flop and putting in a bet good in the river and checking back the turn where I was doing less well. Raging here, don't really have stats on yet, but it'd be nice to have. I actually don't think the 7 is as great of a turn bluff card as it might look like at first. I think it's okay. I do like bluffing the end here, just because my hand is so terrible. It's really at the bottom of my range. So I'm going to bet that. And I'm hoping that he folds a hand like pocket 4s. He's just going to have some hands that are trying to show down cheaply that I think will fold to that bet. And I have plenty of hands that have, that are at least top pair on that river. I think top pair is kind of the value threshold, maybe a decent mid pair. So I'd say pretty standard. I'll keep looking at the lobby. Let's see. Oh, Table Ninja's directing my attention. So try to steal against human. I would steal against pretty much anyone. 8-7's, not a bad poker hand at all. See, I don't think this 2550 is going to run, but I'll join table starter just in case. And yeah, aside from human, I recognize Radificik with the panda avatar. I vaguely recognize Ospiel 888, I think just from looking at the 1020 lobby, and I vaguely recognize Patapon, but I don't know how any of these guys play. So I think this is sort of... I know OTB Red Baron quite well. Actually, it's funny, I've played a lot of hands with OTB Red Baron, but I don't have a... I shouldn't even be saying this, but maybe he's watching. I think he is watching. I think I saw something. I think there's some user called OTB Red Baron. So he probably is. But anyway, OTB Red Baron and everyone else. I don't have a good read on your game yet, so whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Things are going well. I think I have trouble with that player. I think he's good. Maybe he's not good. I just don't. He seems good to me. He's won a lot of money, so there's that. Hopefully we'll get some hands soon, so I don't have to ramble anymore. I got my Table Ninja now. I got my Table Ninja 2, so I can really speed along in the hands. It's really fun. Oh, so I have another table on. I don't think I'm actually going to play this though. I got to play mine with the gun hand, so I'd rather play a 25-50 game. Although I think this might break for sure, but we'll see. This is a spot. Ace-10 here is a hand that I prefer to check. The reason is, into 3 players and Ace-9-9, I can't just go ahead c-betting every which way. On Ace-Deuce-Deuce, this is a spot where I think c-betting is going to have a positive expectation, but I'll mix a few air hands into my flop checking range. And the idea is that when the flop goes check-check, I'll bluff the turn. And I don't think that he can just bet any 2 cards in the flop, so I think that I will actually do quite well there. It's a play that you can make against better players. On the turn here, I think it's time to start betting for sure. I can be going for thin value here with a variety of combos, all the way down to pocket 6s. I think is definitely a value bet, maybe even 5s or 4s or 3s. So it's a pretty good situation. With Ace-10 here, when he bets half pot, I definitely have to call, especially he's in position, and so he has a lot of incentive to bluff. He's seen 2 people act. So I'll call, and I'll check. On this turn, I actually think I probably need to fold. I know it's kind of gross. He's definitely going to be bluffing sometimes. On this 9 river, I expect to be chopped a lot, but I don't think that there's a reason to bet, because I might have queens, and I might have 2 diamonds. But rarely am I going to have a hand that's just a bluff. And also, I mean, he's really it's a very strange check back. I don't know why he did that. I think a small bet is the right play on the river there. I guess he was thinking that, maybe I have a 9, which is true, but I don't think that he needs to be that afraid of a 9, given my line. I think, he has the second nuts. I guess aces too, he's afraid of. So the third nuts. There's only one combo of that. There's only one, well, there's some more combos of 9s. I think Queen 3 offsuit I can go ahead and lay down. And this King Jack here, I'm going to fold. So these 25-50 regs I know a little bit more about. Katya I've played a lot with. You can see I have 2K hands with Katya. And Katya is a very good player. Ospiel we know from the 10-20 games. Edjuka Poker is a X short stacker. And maybe pretty tough. Marcus was a reg in the big games for a while and then dropped off the big games for a little bit and is back. I don't know how he's playing these days. I know how he used to play. He used to be pretty tight, but solid. I think he's a good hand reader. And I don't know what he's doing now. And this guy is a Ukrainian player. I've seen him on all the waiting lists today, and I don't know much about him either. So I think there's a lot of good Hold'em regs, so I just don't know much about, because they don't really play as much. I mean, I play mostly 50-100 these days. So I don't see these guys as much. It's a pretty standard 3-bet for me. For winning the pot value. For value, I'm ahead of his calling range slightly, but also I'm knocking the big blind out of the pot. I have good equity against pretty much any range. It's a very playable hand. It's good. It's just good 3-betting hand. That's not my ideal flop, and one that I'm going to check these Broadway X flops, especially where X is like an 8-9 type card, are actually okay for in position's calling range, I think. I'll 3-bet here against the fish in order to get it heads up and hopefully win the pot pre-flop. Now, this is an interesting card with the Queen Jack. This is pretty close for me against the way I suspect this guy's playing. I mean, the thing is, a bluff is sort of an attractive play here, but, well, let me just play the hand for a second. We'll talk soon. 4-5 against this fishy player. You can go ahead and check call the flop. And A6 here. I'm just going to go ahead and bet for tempo, for semi-bluff, for winning the pot. And on this 10, obviously Ace-Jack and pocket 10s are the two worries, but that's pretty unlikely. Maybe weirdly play Jack-9. So we have, for all intents and purposes, the nuts. And we're going to go ahead and bet and call a raise. And Ace-Deuce I'm going to show down and hope. Obviously this turn is amazing. I'm going to go ahead and bet. I think check raise is okay against a better player, but I think against a weaker player, we want to give him an opportunity to either go crazy with a 10 or a 9 or to call with a hand like, ace high, things like that. Oh, so he did have ace jack, but he didn't raise. So that's not good. You got to raise there. He has to raise. His hand is amazing. I don't know what he's afraid of. Maybe my timing is really weird and it's like setting off people's spidey senses because I'm making the video, but that hand's just, it's just too good. It's just too good. Sure, I can have pocket 10s when I take this line. I can maybe even have pocket kings once in a blue moon, but most of the hands that I have are going to be thin value bets like king jack, or queen x, obviously, like I had. So yeah. On the 7 river, I'm just going to value bet and try to get value from a 9 or a 10. I expect to get called fairly frequently here. But he can also have a hand, like I think he can have anything because he's a weaker player. So he could have anything down. He could have jack 8, he could have 8-6, he could have pocket 7s, he could have 10-7, he could have 9-7, he could have king jack, he could have anything. When he min raises the river, we got to think that he's probably has it. He probably just has, well, it could be all those hands I just mentioned. But, I mean, he's just, I'm not going to fold this hand until, it's just too strong a hand to fold against a weaker player until you know their exact tendencies. That's really the point. That doesn't surprise me that he had jack 8. That's a hand that makes a lot of sense. But, we're not going to fold. So this has been part 1 of the video, which is going to be 4-tabling pretty big stakes, no limit hold'em. And I'm going to take a short break and come back with part 2. This has been Sauce123 for RunItOnce.com. I'll see you guys next time.